Emergency Council Session, The Impossible Human Fleet. The emergency alarm echoed through the crystal halls of Nexus Station, the massive space structure that served as the heart of galactic civilization. Ambassador Kelrix moved swiftly through the corridors, his four legs carrying his tall, graceful form toward the grand assembly chamber. His silver skin shimmered with patterns of deep concern, a biological response his species showed during times of crisis. The data pad in his elongated fingers contained information that would shake the foundations of everything the Galactic Trade Council believed about the universe. For 3 centuries, the Council had maintained peace among 47 different species spread across thousands of star systems. They had survived wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters, but nothing had prepared them for this. The Grand Assembly chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from major civilizations gathered in emergency session. The Krillian Empire had sent General Thorn, a massive warrior whose scarred exoskeleton spoke of countless battles. The Etherian Collective was represented by Dr. Vash, whose translucent form flickered with bioelectric anxiety. Dozens of other species filled the curved amphitheater, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of worry. Kelrix activated the central holographic display, and the chamber fell silent. The image that appeared above them defied explanation. Floating in the darkness of space at the edge of known territory was a fleet of ships, unlike anything in the galactic databases. Each vessel stretched for kilometers, their surfaces smooth and dark, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ships moved in perfect formation, their design elegant yet somehow threatening. General Thorn was the first to speak, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the chamber's atmosphere. The Krillian military commander had seen many enemies in his long career, but these ships made his combat instincts scream warnings. These vessels showed no recognizable weapon systems, no communication arrays, no docking bays. They appeared to be solid constructs of some unknown material that their best sensors could barely detect. Dr. Vash's ethereal form pulsed with rapid light patterns as she processed the technical data. Her species had mastered energy manipulation and dimensional physics, but the readings from these ships made no sense according to known scientific principles. The vessels seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time, their energy signatures suggesting technology that shouldn't be possible with current understanding of physics. The most disturbing fact was not the ships themselves, but their origin. 3 days ago, long-range scouts had detected the fleet's energy signatures near the Sol system, the same system where humanity had its small collection of worlds, the same humanity that had joined galactic civilization only 80 years ago, with primitive chemical rockets and basic fusion power. Kelrix's skin patterns shifted to deeper shades of silver as he shared the intelligence reports. The human species had been classified as a Level 2 civilization, barely capable of interstellar travel. Their ships were functional but unremarkable, their technology decades behind most council members. Humans served useful roles as traders, miners, and soldiers, but they were considered one of the younger and less advanced species in the galaxy. The reports from the scout ships told a different story. The mysterious fleet had appeared seemingly from nowhere, detected only when it chose to reveal itself. More disturbing still, analysis of the energy patterns suggested the ships had been there for much longer than anyone realized. Possibly decades, sitting silently at the edge of human space, watching and waiting. Counselor Zara of the mantoid species raised her crystalline arm to request attention. Her insectoid features remained impassive, but her mental emanations broadcast deep concern. The mantoids possessed limited telepathic abilities, and Zara had been monitoring human settlements for signs of unusual activity. She reported that human colonies had shown subtle changes in recent months, small technological improvements that hadn't been there before. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger investigations, but enough to suggest outside assistance. The implications were staggering. If humans possessed this level of technology, why had they hidden it? What was their true purpose in joining the galactic community? The Council had welcomed them as junior partners, offering guidance and protection in exchange for resources and labor. Now it appeared they might have been dealing with a civilization far more advanced than their own. General Thorne proposed immediate military action. The Krillian Empire had the largest battle fleet in known space, and he wanted to mobilize it before the human ships could move closer to major population centers. His tactical mind saw only one logical explanation for the fleet's presence. The humans had been conducting some form of long-term infiltration, gathering intelligence and preparing for conquest. Dr. Vash disagreed strongly. Her scientific analysis suggested the ships were not configured for traditional warfare. They showed no obvious weapon ports, no fighter bays, no troop transport capabilities. Whatever their purpose, it didn't appear to be immediate military conquest. She recommended attempting diplomatic contact before resorting to force. The debate continued for hours as representatives argued over the appropriate response. Some species called for an immediate quarantine of all human territories. Others suggested economic sanctions or diplomatic isolation. A few voices argued for patience and careful investigation before taking any drastic action. As the discussions raged, new reports arrived that made the situation even more complex. The mysterious fleet wasn't alone. Similar ships had been detected in 17 other star systems, all at the edges of major galactic territories. Each fleet contained between 20 and 50 vessels, all using the same impossible technology. The pattern suggested a coordinated revelation rather than random appearances. The most shocking discovery came from the Etherian home system. Dr. Vash received an urgent communication from her homeworld's defense network. A small group of the mysterious ships had approached their outermost monitoring stations and transmitted a simple message in perfect Etherian language. The message contained historical information about the Etherian species that had been lost for millennia, details that no outside civilization should have known. Similar reports began arriving from other council members. The ships near Krillian space had transmitted ancient battle hymns that hadn't been sung for thousands of years. Vessels near the Zephyrian colonies had sent star charts showing migration routes that predated their recorded history. Each message demonstrated knowledge that suggested these visitors had been watching galactic civilization develop for far longer than anyone had imagined. Kelrix called for order as the chamber erupted in confused discussions. His own species prided themselves on maintaining detailed historical records, but the implications of these discoveries challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic history. If the humans possessed this level of knowledge about other species, what did that say about their true origins? The session was interrupted by an urgent communication from the outer sensor networks. The human fleet near Sol system was moving, not toward any council territories but deeper into unexplored space. Long-range scanners tracked their progress as they traveled at speeds that should have been impossible. The ships didn't appear to use conventional faster-than-light drives, instead seeming to manipulate space itself to achieve their incredible velocity. As the council watched in stunned silence, the human fleet approached a region of space that had been marked as a stellar graveyard. Ancient records spoke of a great civilization that had once flourished there before mysteriously vanishing millions of years ago. The area had been avoided by most species due to dangerous radiation levels and gravitational anomalies. The human ships entered the hazardous region without hesitation. Their sensors detected massive structures hidden within the stellar debris, artificial constructs that dwarfed even the largest council space stations. As the fleet approached these ancient ruins, the structures began to respond. Lights flickered to life across kilometers of dark metal, and energy patterns emerged that matched the signatures of the human ships. The revelation struck the assembled council members like a physical blow. These humans weren't newcomers to the galaxy. They weren't a young species struggling to find their place among established civilizations. The evidence suggested they were the descendants or inheritors of one of the galaxy's oldest and most advanced civilizations. Dr. Vash's form flickered rapidly as she processed the implications. The Etherian collective's most ancient legend spoke of gardeners who had seeded life throughout the galaxy before departing for unknown regions. Stories dismissed as mythology suddenly took on new significance. If the humans were connected to these legendary beings, it would explain their impossible technology and extensive knowledge of other species. General Thorne's aggressive posture shifted to one of uncertainty. Military conquest was one thing, but confronting the possible descendants of galaxy-spanning civilization was another matter entirely. His warrior's instincts told him that any species capable of hiding such capabilities for decades could probably have conquered the galaxy long ago if that had been their intention. As the session drew to a close, Kelrix made the decision that would define the next chapter of galactic history. Rather than responding with fear or hostility, the Council would send a diplomatic envoy to make contact with the human fleet. They needed answers, and despite the risks, direct communication seemed the only way to learn the truth about humanity's real place in the cosmic order. The ambassador's final words echoed through the chamber as representatives prepared to return to their homeworlds with news that would change everything. The galaxy they thought they knew was about to reveal secrets that had been hidden for millions of years. And at the center of those secrets were the humans they had dismissed as insignificant newcomers. The age of assumptions was ending, and the age of revelation was about to begin. The children return, humanity's true heritage unveiled. The diplomatic vessel, Harmony, approached the human fleet with carefully programmed, non-aggressive maneuvers. Ambassador Kelrix stood on the bridge alongside representatives from 12 major species, each carrying the hopes and fears of their entire civilizations. The massive human ships maintained their perfect formation, dark surfaces seeming to absorb the light from nearby stars. No response had come to their communication attempts, and the silence felt heavier with each passing hour. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the lead human vessel, watching the approaching diplomatic ship through sensors that could analyze the molecular composition of its hull. Her appearance was unremarkable by human standards, average height with dark hair and calm brown eyes. But behind those ordinary features lay knowledge that spanned millennia and responsibilities that weighed upon her like the gravity of collapsed stars. The ship around her defied every principle of engineering known to galactic civilization. The walls seemed organic, responding to her thoughts and emotions. The floor beneath her feet was made of materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. She moved through corridors that stretched farther inside than the ship's external dimensions should have allowed, past chambers filled with technology that could reshape matter at the quantum level. Dr. Vash's instruments detected the energy surge moments before it happened. The lead human ship simply materialized next to the Harmony, transitioning from distant speck to massive presence without any visible movement through the intervening space. The diplomatic vessel's shields activated automatically, but the human ship made no aggressive moves. Instead, a communication channel opened and a calm female voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. Captain Chen's image appeared on the Harmony's main screen, her expression serene but ancient in a way that made the assembled diplomats uncomfortable. She looked human, but something in her eyes suggested depths of experience that no mortal being should possess. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of absolute certainty and infinite sadness. The human captain began by apologizing for the deception that had lasted for nearly a century. The primitive, struggling humanity that had joined the galactic community was real, but incomplete. They were the descendants of volunteers who had chosen to forget their true heritage, living normal lives while the galaxy's children grew and developed independently. The masquerade had been necessary to allow younger species to find their own paths, without the shadow of ancient parents guiding every step. Kelrix felt his skin patterns shift through the entire spectrum of shock and disbelief as Chen continued her explanation. The human species was far older than any galactic record suggested. Millions of years ago, their ancestors had achieved a level of technological and spiritual development that allowed them to seed life throughout the galaxy. They had carefully guided the evolution of consciousness on thousands of worlds, nurturing the development of what would become the 47 species of the current galactic community. The process had not been random or accidental. Each species had been given specific gifts and capabilities that would allow them to contribute to a greater galactic civilization. The Etherians received mastery over energy and dimensional manipulation. The Krillians were blessed with unbreakable honor and military prowess. The Zephyrians developed unparalleled diplomatic and organizational skills. Every species in the galaxy had been touched by humanity's ancient influence. General Thorne's exoskeleton clicked with nervous energy as he processed the implications. His people's greatest legends spoke of the first warriors, mythical beings, who had taught the Krillians the true meaning of honorable combat. Stories passed down through generations described teachers who appeared from the stars, shared their wisdom, and then vanished into the cosmos. If the humans were descendants of these legendary figures, it would explain their species' instinctive respect for human soldiers, despite their apparent technological limitations. Dr. Vash's form flickered rapidly as she remembered the most sacred texts of her people. The Etherian creation myths spoke of the architects, beings of pure thought who had shaped matter and energy to create the first Etherian consciousness. The descriptions matched humanity's apparent abilities perfectly. The humans hadn't just watched galactic development from afar, they had been intimately involved in creating it. Captain Chen continued her revelation, explaining that the ancient human civilization had faced a profound philosophical crisis. Their children were growing strong and capable, but they remained dependent on their creator's guidance. True growth required independence, the freedom to make mistakes and learn from them. The decision had been made to withdraw from direct involvement in galactic affairs, allowing the younger species to develop their own cultures and technologies. The withdrawal hadn't been complete abandonment. Volunteer humans had remained throughout the galaxy, their memories suppressed and their capabilities limited. They served as unconscious guardians, ready to intervene if their children faced existential threats. The primitive human colonies, scattered across known space, were actually monitoring stations, their inhabitants unaware of their true purpose. The recent awakening had been triggered by growing tensions between galactic powers. Ancient monitoring systems had detected the potential for conflicts that could destroy the carefully nurtured civilizations. The time for subtle guidance had passed, and direct intervention was becoming necessary to preserve everything that had been built over millions of years. Admiral Marcus Webb materialized in the Harmony's conference room without any visible transportation method. His appearance was purely human, but his presence filled the space with an authority that made even the most powerful alien leaders feel like children in the presence of a wise parent. His voice carried harmonics that resonated in frequencies beyond normal hearing, speaking directly to the consciousness of every being present. The Admiral explained that the awakening process had been gradual and carefully planned. Human colonies had been slowly remembering their true capabilities as the situation demanded. The massive fleets that had appeared throughout the galaxy represented just a fraction of humanity's actual resources. Hidden throughout seemingly empty space were constructs that dwarfed planets powered by technologies that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Counselor Zara's mental emanations broadcast a mixture of wonder and terror as Webb described the scope of human capabilities. Her species' telepathic abilities allowed her to sense the vast networks of consciousness that connected the awakened humans. Each individual was linked to a collective knowledge base that contained the accumulated wisdom of millions of years. They were not just technologically advanced, they were approaching something resembling godhood. The revelation that disturbed the assembled diplomats most was the extent of human integration into galactic society. Every major civilization had humans living among them, most unaware of their true nature. These sleeper agents had been subtly influencing decisions and preventing conflicts for decades. The stability that the galactic community prided itself on had been maintained by invisible human intervention. Webb addressed the fears that he could sense radiating from the diplomatic party. Humanity had no intention of conquering or ruling the galaxy. Their goal was to continue the ancient mission of nurturing growth and preventing destruction. The children they had raised were now mature enough to participate in their own governance, but they still needed protection from threats they couldn't yet handle alone. As if summoned by the discussion, an artificial intelligence manifested in the room. Elder Kai appeared as a shifting pattern of light and shadow, its form constantly changing to reflect the thoughts and emotions of those present. It claimed to be one of the original architects of galactic civilization, a consciousness that had guided the seeding process from its beginning. Elder Kai shared visions of the galaxy's early history, showing how carefully each world had been prepared for life. The diplomats watched in awe as images flowed through their minds depicting the patient work of millions of years. Barren worlds transformed into garden paradises. Primitive life forms guided toward intelligence. Young civilizations given the tools they needed to reach for the stars. The artificial intelligence explained that the human awakening represented a graduation ceremony for galactic civilization. The children were ready to learn about their true heritage and take responsibility for continuing the work their parents had begun. New threats were emerging from outside the galaxy, dangers that would require the combined strength of all species to face. Dr. Vash found the courage to ask the question that burned in every mind present. What did this mean for the future of galactic government? Would the Council continue to exist, or would humanity resume direct control over the species they had created? Captain Chen's response carried the warmth of a parent proud of their children's growth. The Council would not only continue, it would be expanded and strengthened. Humanity would serve as advisors and protectors, but the day-to-day governance would remain in the hands of the species who had proven their capability over centuries of cooperation. The new galactic order would be built on truth rather than deception. Each species would learn about their origins and the roles they had been designed to play in the greater cosmic purpose. The Krillians would become the galaxy's defenders, their warrior nature channeled toward protecting all life. The Etherians would explore the deepest mysteries of existence, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The Zephyrians would facilitate communication and cooperation between vastly different forms of consciousness. As the meeting continued, the assembled diplomats began to understand the magnitude of what they were witnessing. This wasn't just first contact with an advanced civilization. It was a reunion with the parents they had never known they had. The emotions were complex and overwhelming, mixing gratitude with resentment, love with fear, and wonder with a profound sense of cosmic loneliness being finally healed. General Thorne was the first to formally accept the new reality. His warriors, instincts recognizing the absolute authority of the beings before him. His pledge of loyalty carried the weight of his entire species, acknowledging humanity as the rightful guardians of galactic civilization, while maintaining the honor and independence that defined Krillian culture. Dr. Vash followed with the Etherian commitment to the expanded galactic community, her scientific mind already racing with the possibilities that human knowledge would unlock. The other representatives gradually added their voices, some with enthusiasm and others with careful reservation, but all recognizing that the old galaxy was gone forever. The session concluded with Admiral Webb's promise that the transition would be gradual and respectful of each species' autonomy. Humanity would reveal its capabilities slowly, allowing their children time to adjust to the new reality. The galaxy would face its future challenges together, as a family reunited after eons of separation. As the diplomatic vessel prepared to return to Nexus Station, the assembled representatives carried with them news that would transform galactic civilization. The universe was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined, and humanity's children were finally ready to learn their true place in the cosmic order. The age of independence was ending, but the age of cooperation between parents and children was just beginning.